Priscilla Arteaga, the Division Office Manager, to present to you meeting the graduation goal through leadership development. We are sure happy that you're with us today, and it's a very unique situation coming to you during these COVID times. Part of our presentation today, Priscilla and I, as you'll learn, gave about 7 months ago at the League of Innovation in Seattle. And so as you can imagine, that folks walking in and greeting people and learning who they are, meeting them, getting to know their names, where they're from, and just that interaction, that personal connection interaction, a whole lot different than it is today. So as I'm looking across the screen and seeing a lot of names, we do appreciate you being with us today. Sure wish we were in person, but yet during our COVID time, certainly this is the best that we can do. So again, we appreciate you being here on behalf of Priscilla and myself. Thank you so much. Again, today we are focusing on the graduation goal at University Park, which is called Grad Up, and how we are approaching it from a divisional lens with leadership development. So as I mentioned, our Grad Up goal purpose is to increase FTIC full-time 3-year graduation rate to 50%. Here at University Park, we started this about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And so this, again, is kind of the way that we have looked and the way that we have been able to create more value through the vision, but also to be a liaison to our executive team, to our faculty, to our staff, to just whomever may need us within these conversations. And so this is our version of how that leadership kind of looks to us. So thanks again for joining us. Priscilla?
Yes, let me go back to this. All right, so the first we want to ask you guys to do, I know the engagement piece is a little different online, but we'd like for you to go to a browser, open up a browser either on your cell phone or on your desktop and your laptop, and go to menti.com and enter the code that you see here. Hope everybody can see the presentation. So the code is 6492876. And what we want you to do is just describe in one word, how do you lead? So we're going to go and take a look at the results. As you guys are doing that. Very difficult to do this at the same time. There you go. Interesting. Collaboration by example, support. Again, the code is 6492876. By example, that's a really good one. Facilitation, confidence.
Blindly.
Compassion.
Listen.
Not blindly. That was a little scary.
Yes. Questioning.
Enthusiasm. Delegation.
Confidence. Authentically.
Integrity. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It looks like it kind of slowed down a little bit. Oh, here's a couple more. Want to make sure everybody gets a chance to just kind of chime in.
By building up. Having others watch me.
Okay. All right. I like these. Exemplary, encourage, authentically. It's really good. Great examples of how to do that. Let me get back to our presentation. So as you were thinking that through, and I just said one word, right? So it was really difficult to just identify one word, right? It's difficult for all of us because it doesn't just take one word to do that, right? So what we're going to be utilizing today and walking you through is just John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership. And he really emphasized 5 different concepts of what it takes to be a leader and how to develop people around you. So what we want to do is showcase how we utilize the 5 levels of leadership at an instructional unit. So we're over the Division of Arts and Humanities, at Lone Star College University Park, and how we apply each one of those concepts within our division. So the first level is position. So what was the role that you were hired to do? The second is permission. So establishing those relationships within your team so that you enjoy coming to work, right, on a daily basis. Then the next level would be production. So it's the execution of the mission. What are the results that you're getting from everything that your team is doing? How do you measure those results? Then the next level would be people development. So making sure that everybody on your team has that growth mindset, right? Because you want to make sure that all the results that you're producing, they can be reproduced, and that there's really a commitment that goes through the mission of what you're trying to accomplish. And then the last one would be a pinnacle leader. So at that point, you've earned the respect of your peers, and people want to follow you, right? They want to be part of this team, and you become an industry leader. So we're going to go through each one of these. And Jonah, if you want to take on over our team.
So thinking about position and thinking about the first level, you see this was the beginning of the team right here. Myself, Priscilla, Debbie Seidel, our division operations specialist, and Carmelita Garcia, our division assistant. And a couple of years ago, we took it upon ourselves to, along with the help of our organizational development team at Lone Star College System Office, Melissa Henshaw and Alicia Friday and their team, we went and we worked through the Maxwell principles, and I asked Priscilla, Debbie, and Carmelita to rank me using the Maxwell principles as an anonymous survey, so that I in this case could kind of get a feel for where I was as a level 1, level 2, level 3, so on and so forth leader. Along with using the Maxwell principles, as you will see here in just a minute, we were also using the Clifton strengths. So we kind of used two of those resources to kind of get a feel for how we functioned as a team, and as a feel for how I function as a leader, using both of those platforms to then be able to move the needle forward as we, again, in our role, to move the graduation goal. So based on those examples and based on those outcomes, where we kind of are at right now as we take a look at our current enrollment, our current division, who we represent, you can see here we kind of facilitate these conversations and these leadership roles through 10 different departments on our campus. As you can see, English, ESOL, history, humanities, philosophy, performing arts. You can see the whole team, all of our chairs, the overall enrollment in which we serve on a daily basis, how the percentages and along with that in alignment with the rest of the college, so on and so forth. So it was very important for us to kind of get a handle on where we were as a team and how we function together as a team and how we need to move that needle within ourselves so that we can be more accountable, but yet better resources for our team as we think of more of a peripheral vision. So through those Clifton strengths, Priscilla's going to talk a little bit more about what we found and our personalities and how we all kind of were working together. And again, it was a very vulnerable moment for me and maybe a vulnerable moment for the team, but at the same time, an exercise that has really kind of helped us continue this conversation. And we'll, again, talk more about that here shortly.
That's right. Definitely want to echo what Jonah said there, because the very foundation of going to that next level of leadership is creating those relationships internally. So yes, we use the tools that Lone Star College already has and that many of you are already aware of through the Office of Professional Development. These are great tools to utilize. So if you can see here, this kind of shows you the results of our entire team. Again, this is just a foundation of how can we relate to each other. And just looking at it, there's an array of skill sets within our team. And I know, and Jonah knows, that we can balance each other off. Just because if I don't know how to, or I don't have a strength, I know that somebody else in my team will hold that strength. So again, that's just a very foundation. But what you really want to do is utilize that to build a synergistic team. And so you can do that by celebrating everything. So just celebrating each other, celebrating each other's birthdays, making sure that you know what are the drivers behind your team, what are their personal goals, and how can you help them become a better person. So just getting to know each other on a more personal level and really getting to see, besides the skill sets that they have as an employee, right, as their role, how can you create a better relationship amongst each other? Because if you do have a strong relationship, that'll take you to the next level, which will be production in Maxwell's theory. So in the next level of leadership, Maxwell talks about productivity and how do you measure that. So with us working so much online nowadays, we have had to morph on how we work, right? So we're not always in the office. We're not going to have access to folders, to paper printouts. And prior to this, we needed a collaboration tool for our entire team to be on the same page, right? So even something as simple as sharing one document that everybody can have access to, that creates transparency within the team. So we went ahead and morphed over where you needed G Drive, for example, then to Google, and then MS Teams. So currently we have a virtual Dean Suite through MS Teams, and I'm sure many of you are getting to know it because I have seen many teams across Lone Star College that is now moving and transitioning to utilize this. So we have two different ones. We have one for a Dean Suite where we do everything operations-wise. Everyone in our team can always see where we're at as far as in the progress that we are making. So that encompasses all of our department chairs have that access and our staff members have that access. We also created another one for our faculty portal so that faculty can have at their fingertips the resources they need to help the students within their classrooms, because often they are thrown at and given so many resources. And it's great. We work with a great system that just provides us so much support, but it can be difficult to manage all of those resources and to also direct your attention to the classrooms and keep your classrooms engaged. So we try to provide as much information up front. We also continue having staff meetings, so it's just having those one-on-one touch meetings as far as in how are your projects going, how are you feeling about your workload, and then we have team meetings where we can all come together and then just develop each other professionally. So that's really led to how we've led from phasing away face-to-face to more of a virtual environment. And just like we're doing today and this morning with the conference, within our division, we actually have a lot of events that we host. So whether it would be theater productions or musical concerts or English or history guest speakers that we host, our division hosts many events. So we want to make sure that we have that transition and we continue to support our faculty by creating those services.
So when we think about, and Priscilla mentioned, especially like with the Clifton strengths and being able to identify people's skill sets, what the drivers are, so on and so forth, and being able to use the information along with the Maxwell principles to help both of us develop people, figure out what is their growth mindset, what's their growth zone, and to really be able to capture those kinds of conversations within our staff meetings, but also, as you'll see here in just a few minutes, to be able to empower and to engage them within their own skill sets, being able to provide folks the right tool, as you see here, not only with our staff, but also with our faculty. Consistent conversations, asking for feedback, asking folks, hey, what do you need? How can I help you? Where can we be of assistance? So again, everyone has the opportunity, has the right tools. They can be able to spend their time working on their goals, strategizing, recruiting, communicating, committing the time they need so they don't have to worry about all the little things. That's what our job is and has become as we've kind of created this conversation. And it's really allowed us to be able to develop people and to help them with that growth mindset and that growth zone, to be able to consistently develop and help them reflect upon where they are now, where they want to go in the future, so on and so forth. Priscilla also mentioned touch points. We have very intentionally not only created the staff meeting weekly, but also in addition to that, Priscilla and I have touch points every day, 10 minutes every single day, where we situate just a quick conversation of, hey, how are you? How are we going? If anything, it's a check-in, but at the same time, it allows us and really creates a fostering environment of making sure that we talk to one another every single day to make sure that everybody is on the same page. These are all part of our goals. These are all part of our strategies. Recently, as we have had staff meetings and as we have also taken this information to our division meetings, which you'll see here in just a few minutes as we talk with faculty as well, asking them, what are your goals? How can we help you accomplish, or how can we help you, or how we can empower you to capture your goals? Just Wednesday at a staff meeting, that's what we led the meeting with. As I started, I asked, hey, what's one word that you're feeling today, as an example? So all of the staff went around and was able to create one word as to how they're feeling. Great, happy, sad, whatever that looks like, just creating a safe space. But then I followed up with, okay, please communicate to all of us, what are 2 personal goals and what is 1 staff goal? Take 2 minutes. We're going to go off on here for a second. We're going to come back on here after 2 minutes. And then I want you to communicate that with each one of us so that we can hear, we can listen, which is another big piece to this as we develop people, as we develop that growth actions as leader, but to also to be able to listen to hear, not to listen to necessarily jump into the conversation, but to really to be able to capture that, which we think really kind of helps us communicate our expectations. It really allows us to develop ourselves as leaders and to reflect upon and to create that safe space. So as we're moving forward with that growth mindset, that idea of how we engage and how we empower people, what does that look like? And for everybody, it's different. So as we've had these conversations and as we move to the next slide, what we're also going to talk about is how we have evolved. And so as you saw the first group, the first sit down, the first touch point with myself, Priscilla, Abby, and Carmelita, from those critical conversations, from those the work that we did with the Maxwell principles and with the what we did with the Clifton strengths, and through those critical conversations, we were able to identify gaps and some holes. Along those lines, and somewhat separately in a sense of what we had not discussed yet, is that we are also online for a new visual and performing arts center building. And so part of that building, as you heard Priscilla talk about all of our events, I mean, we are now as a division upwards of supporting 60 to 90 events a year. And so that was one of the gaps that we saw through those critical conversations, was how do we develop more of a team? And as we move into the new building, one of the pieces that we will have to have is a fine arts coordinator to really kind of help coordinate those conversations. So our version of that for right now is the inclusion of who you see here, and that is Tabitha, Blair, and Diego. And so now this is the 2.0 version of what our division staff looks like. And so with the inclusion of Tabitha, Blair, and Diego, we've also very intentionally identified where each one of their skill sets are, and those are the conversations that they lead. Even though these are part-time staff, all 3 of them are empowered and engaged to have these conversations with faculty, with us, with our executive team, whatever that looks like. They are very critical and crucial members to our team and to the success that we hopefully provide folks every day, especially our students, especially as we as leaders are trying to meet those graduation goals. So as a further example, Tabitha, as you can see, is our events coordinator. So anything that we do within the realm of events, of course, when we were on campus, it looked a little bit differently, where, for example, we wanted to take things to another level. So as we might have had, like, say, our choir do an event on campus, we would also dress that up with some cookies and some punch for the pre-event, and then, of course, for the post-event as well. Providing a very welcoming scenario or situation where folks felt very welcomed as they walk in, the patrons, and just create that sense of welcome and that sense of, we are so happy that you're here. Just trying to take it to another level in that growth mindset. You know, we recognize that we continually have the conversations of how we do things well, but yet we are always considerate of how we do things better. Blair, in this case, is our graphics coordinator. So anything that we do in relations to our current setup with college relations, all of those conversations run through Blair. Diego, our technical coordinator, as we are working through even currently doing an online radio version of The Christmas Story. So Diego is working directly with our theater faculty, Will Grayson as example, to assist with developing the technical side of that collaboration project. So in other words, the role doesn't fall fully or solely or only all maybe on the faculty, providing faculty, empowering faculty the opportunity to just be a faculty member, and then we will handle the other side of the conversation. And so this is what we have to come. So we've talked a lot about engaging, we talked a lot about empowering. Priscilla's going to continue that conversation with what we've done with our division website, how we go about our best practices, so on and so forth.
Okay, yes, we definitely have been talking about engaging and empowering, but what we have talked to you about is also the tools that we've used. So we began with the MS Teams, right? So that's just a collaboration tool, right? But in addition to that, as Jonah mentioned, we also have our division website. And I'm gonna take y'all there, actually, just to kind of showcase just a little bit. So the division website was designed with faculty in mind and also students, so they could have one hub to know where all of the contacts are, where you can reach on your phone or any other device that you have. Anybody can ask anonymous questions from the division staff or the dean. These questions will go directly to the dean, and then he can respond back to the entire division, or if not a student, if they put their name on in there. But we did it anonymous with the intention that anybody can feel free to provide that feedback. And just feel like they will not have any kind of obligation or any issue if they do raise up any concerns. So we definitely applaud them to use that portal. We also have all our department chairs and all of the departments that report directly under them. And that way they have one area where all of that information is showcased, including some of the areas such as RETA, pop-up. We have an academic conference through our Department of English, and then instructor resources. So anything that they kind of need on a daily basis, whether it's a schedule change form or syllabus creations tool, these are things that faculty need on a daily basis that just they need at their fingertips, right? So, and also the dates. So these seem like minor items, but how many emails do we get back and forth of just trying to confirm these type of items? You know, I can't find that grade change form. I can't find that I contract. And when we think about it, that's a barrier for someone to not get to the next level, not get to do that next portion that they need to do. So that's just part of it. But engaging in our division meetings and really changing the format that we drive it. In the previous years, we've had an informative type of division meeting. So taking announcements that are system-wide, if not campus-wide, throughout University Park, and then disseminating that information on over to faculty and staff. It became more of an announcement piece. Instead, now we focus on practice. So we're going to incorporate, and we've incorporated best practices and pro tips that faculty use in the classroom amongst each other. So we will ask colleagues amongst each other to share best practices, and we'll highlight a couple of best practices throughout our division meeting, some pedagogical strategies. That way other faculty who have not used those strategies, there might be some learning curve there, and they'll give an example of how it is that they use and what kind of feedback do their students get when they do use these type of tools. We also invite guest speakers from different departments across the campus. So whether that be advising or counseling or financial aid, these are resources that are available to our faculty, but sometimes they don't really know who to contact or how to drive that conversation or what kind of resources exactly are offered through that department. So we definitely invite guest speakers that can go more in detail on how those support services are there to aid the faculty and aid the students within their classrooms. And one of those guest speakers are professional development and all the different series that they have. So we ask them to come in and then discuss all the different opportunities that they have throughout the semester, if not the year, And that way faculty are engaged with the type of sessions and seminars that are available to them. We also ask faculty to share student success stories. So is there someone that you want to highlight within your classroom that's just gone above and beyond, or somebody that just inspired you, right, to keep on going within your classroom? Because in this format of teaching online, it's just been very different. You don't have that one-on-one interaction, right, that you usually do when you're teaching in class. So what kind of student stories really help faculty regain that inspiration to continue teaching in their classroom? So everything is just very intentional. And after the division meeting, we do video and record division meeting. We share that out to all of our faculty, and we place it into our MS Teams for everybody, but we also send out an email of the entire presentation. We also seek feedback. So how did we do? What did you think about the guest speakers? What did you think about the best practices? Did you feel like this helped build awareness or build some collegiality just within the division and amongst your colleagues? And if you have something that you would like addressed next time go round, we will use that information that we got from the survey and the feedback to be able to build upon our next division meeting. So really, the faculty are driving the division meeting, not necessarily the staff planning. And there is so much that goes into just planning the division meeting. I would say that it's an orchestrated production, I would say, every single month. It's how I would put that, because we do plan on a weekly basis and the days leading up to the division meeting. Just how can this help faculty be a little bit more effective in their classrooms and get those resources at their fingertips? And in addition to that, we also incorporated a weekly newsletter that we send out to all faculty, whether it's, and all faculty are welcome to the division meeting, whether it's adjuncts or full-time. And the weekly newsletter is also sent out to adjuncts and full-time so that everybody is aware of things that are ongoing. Maybe we do faculty spotlights, such as, I'm sure this coming week we will highlight somebody who just attained their doctorate degree, so Dr. Chelsea Davis-Bibb. So we'll highlight faculty and we'll celebrate our faculty and we'll celebrate students that have stories, because there's not always time within the division meeting to capture everything that everybody is doing. So just taking that newsletter, not only just informing, but celebrating each other as a team. So this is just a sample of what our future newsletters look like in the last couple of weeks. And we share all of our events on here. And if you can see the faculty spotlights on there as well. And we ask for input from our faculty. You know, if there's anything that you need that we can add to the newsletter that can help you a little bit more, please let us know. We can send invitations to our faculty so that they are aware, that they can share with their students, this is what's going on. And for example, history moments. We have a great team that is putting together some sessions to help the students just be better within their history courses. How can they write a better paper? How can they dig deeper within their research? And then actively reading. So all of these are just techniques that each department can help the students and empower them to just meet their own graduation goal.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about positioning and permissions and production. And so we think about the next two steps of the Maxwell principle, which are people development and pinnacle. So my focus right now is just to kind of talk to you all a little bit about the people development. And this is a big piece for me. I like people. I enjoy communicating with people, and I enjoy being around people. And that's kind of the unique piece of where we're at today, team, is not being able to be around you, not being able to see you or kind of feed off you or that energy and so on and so forth. So it's different for sure coming to you live on this presentation. So when we think about the people development and how we talk to people and how we treat people and how we listen, and as you've heard, everything we do is with intention, providing empowerment, providing engagement, regardless of what your title is, regardless of where you're at. It doesn't matter. We are a team, and that's exactly how we approach it, is as a team. We are all collective. We are all collaborative. So how do we know we're effective? And that's a question I ask myself a lot. That's a question I'll ask Priscilla. That's a question I ask staff. That's a question I ask faculty. How do you know if you are effective in the classroom? Or how do you know if you are effective in the culture of the college? Or how do I know if I am effective as a leader? So part of that, as Priscilla mentioned, is kind of our approach with after division meetings, sending out surveys, asking for feedback, consistently seeking feedback. Some folks think feedback is not, or some folks look at feedback as kind of a critical or a confusing or almost a punitive conversation, and that's not the case here at all. We don't know what we don't know, and as leaders, as we think about growth mindset or growth zone, in many of the books and a lot of the research that you do, we're consistently learning, or we should all be on a path of consistent learning, consistent growth mindset, consistent growth. And so we think about the 5 different levels, and at no one time, and that's one of the unique things about this conversation, at no one point in time are you necessarily a level 1 leader or a level 4 leader or a level 3 leader or a level 5. And for some people, you also are a different leader. For some people, I, as an example, am looked at as a level 1 leader. And then maybe for this person over here, I'm looked at as a level 5 leader. And a lot of that, I think, has to go back to the idea of how we develop people, how we talk, how we have those critical conversations, and how we remain at a professional level. So as we go to the next slide, one of the things as we think about a 2.0 or a 3.0 version of this conversation, the next thing for me as a leader was to really get some targeted feedback from faculty. So recently we sent out the same survey that I sent out to the staff in regards to the Maxwell's principles. I sent out the exact same survey to the faculty. It was anonymous. I had my administrative assistant, Carmelita, kind of run as the go-between with our organizational development team out of the Lone Star College system office, specifically working with Melissa Henshaw because she was working with us previously on the 1.0 version. So asking the same questions, what do you feel about me? Imagine the vulnerability. But at the same time, it's constructive criticism. As a previous faculty member of 20 years of my career team, it's no different than reading some of those student evaluations or reading the instructor evaluations from my supervisor, so on and so forth. This is the exact same thing. And I can't get better as a leader if I am not consistently seeking that feedback or that constructive criticism. So as you see on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see a couple of the comments that I received from the feedback. And this is an exercise that we just did about a month ago. So this is all fresh, this is all new, this is real. And you see the positives, and then you see the constructives. And that's important to have both. And so as I look at the whole picture right now, and as I go back and analyze what folks have said so far, the faculty or as a leader are placing me as a level 3 leader. So how do I know if I'm effective right now? They're saying that as a level 3 leader, I am really good up through the production, and in many cases up through the people development. However, what I also learned was that I am not a pinnacle leader as per the lens of my team. And so how do I do that? How do I address those gaps? How do I utilize the feedback from my team to become or to try to challenge myself to be able to create and to be able to get to that pinnacle? So one of the things that has come from this conversation is Priscilla and I have created 3 questions, and they are the same questions. We're just circling back and asking all faculty. We just have started this initiative. In fact, out of our 30 faculty, we have done 2 so far. So we have a ways to go. But again, it's kind of a data collection in essence. Because the survey itself was anonymous, there was some ambiguous conversations happening. So in order for me to really get to the bottom of the conversation, it's important to go back and to be able to address gaps, but do so in a way where nobody feels critiqued, or that no one feels as if this is a conversation that can be punitive or anything else. It's just simply an opportunity for me to use constructive criticism, constructive feedback, targeted feedback, and then to be able to go to work and whatever that looks like. So how do you know if you are an effective leader? And then how do you get, and what does it mean to have those pinnacle behaviors? Priscilla, what do you think?
So in Maxwell's, his definition really for pinnacle behaviors is that a leader has to remain grounded and teachable. So we have to continue to learn. There's never a time where we're going to know it all. We're going to have to continue to learn and develop ourselves as we develop our own team, because there are factors that continue to change, just like we all know that this pandemic sent us online, right? So there are different types of techniques and skill sets that we have to learn as leaders to adapt with. So it's always being adaptable and having that adaptive leadership lens, which really is what Maxwell is trying to get to, because all of the 5 stages, as Jonah talked about, anyone can go in and out and shift throughout their entire leadership career. They can go to a 5 and then go to a 4 and then go back up. So it just really depends on the situation, the scenario, and also the roles that you are leading. So their staff will see things just a little bit differently, faculty, and then departments will see things a little bit differently, just based off of the organic relationship that they build with the leader and the scenarios. So each leader should continue to be naturally them. So as you're growing, you do you best. So we talked about leading based off of your strength, right? So letting that natural self just shine out and then continuing to sharpen that person. But one of the most important things is just creating a succession line, making sure that you're not the only person who knows it all, making sure that you're turning back around, passing that baton and sharing your story with, if it's your staff, if it's other faculty members, and just making sure that everybody understands that this is a team environment, because you can't be a leader alone. You're a leader with a synergistic team, and you're creating that succession by having that growth mindset with each one of your staff members or each member of your team, whatever that may look like for your individual areas. The other thing to consider is, what is your legacy? What legacy are you going to leave behind? So if you leave the organization, or you as a person, how do you want to be known? What was your contribution to the team? So just think about that. And those are the pinnacle behaviors that Maxwell really lined out. So just getting to that next level and understanding that there has to be that next stage, or that next stage of enlightenment, right? That drives you to be that industry leader.
So along with the pinnacle behavior, and we're thinking about, and as Priscilla talked at length about, the idea of team and the idea of empowerment and engagement, and the idea of we are only as good as our weakest link. So as we have these critical conversations, as we move through these conversations, these discussions as a staff with our faculty, again, we are all equal. There is equitability within all of these conversations, and everyone has the same key stakeholders that's at every table, and everyone has the same empowerment and the same engagement to be able to share, to be able to reflect, to be able to be happy, to be able to be sad, which is another piece for me as a leader that I think is a critical piece to be able to obtain and to be able to showcase. And that is to be able to, and we mentioned this earlier, is to be able to celebrate, but also to be able to be sympathetic and empathetic. And because we know that as people, days are days. We have great days, we have bad days. We have good days, we have mediocre days, whatever that looks like. So to be able to have the compassion, to be able to have the ability to meet people right where they are at, and that's okay. And that's okay. It's not about me, it's about us. And we cannot get to our targeted initiative of a 50% graduation rate if it's not about us and if it's not about the students. So hopefully today, what you all have heard is our story and how we are going about our way of assisting the college as we try to attain our graduation goal of 50% for FDIC students. So what's your story? We're also interested, very interested to know what's your story. As I mentioned earlier, Priscilla and I were able to give part of this presentation about 7 months ago up in Seattle at the League of Innovation. And what we talked about not only today, but also then, is we talked to folks about the idea of positioning and permission and production and people development and pinnacle level. We talked about our staff, we talked about faculty, we talked about providing these resources, we talked about external relationships, internal team, all of these amazing, wonderful things. And the feedback that we got on a national level was really, really outstanding. And we're going to share some of that today with you all. But we're also interested to know what your story is. And we're going to ask you for some of your feedback as well in just a few minutes. So think about, what's your story in relation to the 5 levels of John Maxwell's principle? As you as a leader, or as you want to grow further in your leadership abilities, what does that look like to you? How can you position yourself to empower and engage your team? How can you create that professional permission with relationships and develop a synergy? What can you do to produce student engagement opportunities? What can you produce for faculty to have access to their needs, so they can focus sole placement on just teaching the class and not have to worry about all the little other things? How can you advance people development, and how can you have an adaptive leadership style? And then what's your mind look like? What's it look like in your mind's eye to achieve that pinnacle goal? Are you prepared for critical feedback? How does that look to you? So what's your story?
Okay, so we do want to ask you for your insight. We want to ask, what would you change about your college? So as Jenna talked about, we did ask this question on a national level. I'm going to give you the right one. I believe it's the same code that you had this morning earlier. So that is 649287.6. And that's, what would you change about your college? If you want to plug that into a browser or your cell phone that you just did a couple of minutes ago, right? Now that time is running low, but we still want to get a couple of your insights there. So let's go to menti.com, use the code 649287.6. If we can get just a couple of folks to enter, what would you change? Okay. See some come through. More evening options. Okay. Bigger and better. I like that. Sounds very Texan. Everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Right.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
Cross training, consistent communication. Communication is always key, yes.
Consistent and transparent, yes.
More implementation of student success programs. Just don't look good on paper, that's good. All right. So thank you for sharing. So there is something that, there are different goals here, so I just want y'all to take a look. There are very different goals here because you're all coming to us from different roles, different campuses, different departments, different units. So of course you're going to have very different opinions on what can change throughout your college. And just so that you're aware, this is what was answered nationally just this past March. So some people said organizational culture, smaller classes, business partnerships. So it really depended on who is in the room, who's answering the question. We had faculty in there, we had residents in there, we had administrative assistants, managers of different departments, but they all have one thing in common. And that's that it takes leadership to be able to move the needle on each one of these goals. So it's how are you going to change yourself as far as in leadership? How are you going to use your team as far as in creating those relationships to make sure you meet these goals, right? Because these are your individual, personal, and professional goals. As Jonah said, we also want your input. So I'm going to put this link as far as in how you can give us feedback on this and then tell your story a little bit more. This is what the survey looks like. It takes a little less than a couple of minutes. So I will go back to our presentation there. There's my chat. And you will see that come through. If you don't see it come through, somebody let me know. All right, so I think I shared that. Okay.
And so, yes, as Priscilla mentioned, if you will take a few minutes to click onto that link, please provide us some feedback. What are some of our gaps as you heard our story today? And as you have walked through this with us, what do you see as some of our potential roadblocks or some of our gaps? Maybe some of the things we're doing well, maybe some of the things that we can do better. Certainly, again, our conversation is consistent when we say that we are always trying to be better. Always. There's never, ever the stagnant conversation of we're good enough. That's just not who we are as a division. That's not who we are as leaders. That's not who we are as a staff. It's never good enough. So along with that, I know we only have a little bit of time left, but if anybody has any questions with us live here today, certainly we'd like to take an opportunity to hear from you. The chat box is open, as I can see. And or if you would like to be unmuted and talk, chat, whatever that looks like for you, you can see a little bit of our legacy here as we talked about, and that's also a pinnacle behavior as we are moving into the Visual and Performing Arts Center here, hopefully fall of 2022, and that's a big piece of who we are. But that's also in another breath, same sentence, that's a small piece of who we are as a division. So yeah, what comments do you have for us? One comment from Michael McGinley: how does the grad up level look for our division? We do not have, that's a great question, Michael. I do not have access to what we look like at a division. I do have access to our data as a college, but certainly I can circle back with you, Michael, and find out what that looks like for us at a division. Happy to do so. Belinda, could you put the slide that I used a few minutes ago today with all of the 5 levels? Absolutely. They are all right here. Position, permission, production, people development, and pinnacle. Another way to think about that pinnacle team is like if you like sports, you think about Mike Krzyzewski with the University basketball team. Mike talks about the fists, 5 equal parts, all moving together collectively as a Coach Wooden, John Wooden, UCLA, also uses his pinnacle approach when he thinks about the 10 different levels of a pyramid, and he also uses that as well. So I think that these Maxwell principles also not only apply to who we are as leaders within higher education, but certainly apply to all levels of businesses, private, public, so on and so forth, coaching, whatever that looks like. Any questions?
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I think there's you guys are about to have lunch break, but we are here and we're open to take any questions, or if you, like Jonah said, if you want to just chat.
Absolutely. Happy to stick around. Does Alex have a question?
No, I'm good. It was great.
Hi, Alex. Long time no see.
No, how are you guys doing?
We're good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. Busy. Very busy, but good.
Hello.
Hello, yes. Who's this?
This is Nicholas Spurr. I'm at North Harris in the chemistry department.
Hi. How are you today?
Yeah, it's doing good. I heard you guys are still not able to get into a building, are you guys going to be able to do your? Cause I hear about from the chemists over there because of the building you can't get in. Are you able to do that with your new? I guess you have a new building for the arts?
We don't have. Yeah, good question. And is it Nick or Nicholas?
I go by Nick. Yeah.
Okay, Nick. Very good. So we don't have the new building yet, the Visual Informing Arts Center. We're still in the production stages of the new building. So we hope to be up and running in live fall 2022. Currently, both Priscilla and I are at the Energy Manufacturing Institute over here. We are live on campus right now, which has been our only building, has been open for students for classes. And so that, as an example, is where we are at currently. We are working on our RTB, our return to building conversation, and staff will be back in buildings 12 and 13 along with our CSI talking about chemistry. We will be back in the building come around November 9th, and then we are also welcoming students back on campus for the January term. Does that answer your question, Nick?
Yeah, that's great. I guess I haven't been to the energy and manufacturing building there, so but we've been open since. Well, I guess our workforce has been open, but we've been open since beginning of the fall. So
yes, sir. The EMI building that we're currently in, Nick, that is our workforce building, just to be specific.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. Any other questions? Thank you, Nick, for that question. Any other questions? Any other thoughts?
Hey, Dean Anderson, Priscilla. So asked about events. Would we have any club events or performance events, anything that we typically have done in Division I? Would any of that return in the spring semester on campus?
Also a great question, Michael. Thank you. And as you know, and folks on the call, just so you know, all of the events that we had done, whether those were live, we've pivoted and we've turned those into virtual events. And that's in many thanks to our team that I introduced you to, Tabitha and Blair and Diego, Carmelita, Debbie, Priscilla. Everything we do is now, as probably with most folks, virtual. We do have thoughts and how that might look, Michael. Everyone on the call as we return to spring. Of course, that's a day-by-day conversation right now as we think about the CDC guidelines and the state and government level conversation. So we have great intentions with the hopes, and we'll just have to kind of play it by ear. However, fact of the matter is that we will continue to have our events one way or another.
Okay.
And just to add to that, we have had some discussions just recently about planning it's both in person, so having a room for them just in case trends start showing a different direction, but having them in person, but always having that contingent plan of being virtual and having a virtual component for people who don't feel comfortable. So again, we don't know what that looks like yet for the spring semester. There's so many changes that are happening just for the fall semester alone that we are still amidst, right? And that's at the fall is almost at the end. But yes, we definitely want to continue to bring those student engagement opportunities to our students, whether it's virtual or face-to-face. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yep, great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions? Priscilla, you want to start calling on people? And all of a sudden it's a mass exodus to get off the call.
Thank you, everybody. I'm looking at everybody that's joining us. So Dave, Dainara, Diane, Jamicia, Jessica. Jessica, I haven't seen you for a while. So thank you guys for joining us, truly. And if you guys have any further questions, please feel free to email us at any point in time. We've showcased our division website, so you can find us on there and find our contacts on there as well. But you can also email us from the directory. Again, my name is Priscilla Arteaga. This is Jonathan Anderson. So just kind of look us up, send us an email, and we're always open to that conversation.
Absolutely. And this is to on a follow-up to that, no secrets here. This is just how we can all continue to get better. So happy to share. Absolutely. And again, thank you for joining us. We do appreciate you all. Thank you. Anything else before we go? All righty. Well, then if not, we're going to go ahead and get off here and enjoy the rest of your day. Priscilla, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
I appreciate you.
Oh, wait.
We enjoyed our time with y'all.